Alrighty, what's going on? Well, we're in it. Hey, we got a BOGO. If you guys don't know about it, go check it out. Oh, hello from Tucson. Welcome. All right, join in. Yeah, again, go on a website right now. If you didn't get the email or you're not aware, we got a pretty good BOGO deal going on. I'll say it again later, but the code is Holiday BOGO 24. You can add whatever you want to your cart, and basically the lowest price item will be free. So if you add 2 items, even if it's 2 sets, one of those sets will be free. So go check it out. We got details. I'm going to be using the FP0 today on a little bit of carving. So this is a new tool we released last week. Pretty excited about it. Yes, there's a sale. It's a BOGO sale. Check it out on the website. This tool is, we always get asked about what's the finest tool? What's the, how can I make the tiniest line? Well, this is it. So this is finer than any other carving tool that we have. I'll put this here. And we do have a set that we put it together. It's the fine line set. So up until this point, the FP1 and the FP4 have been the tiniest carving tools. I'm not including the L1. The needle tip on the L1 is very fine, but it is best for sgraffito. So we're talking about carving tools right now. The FP1 is a tiny little U-tip, FP4, a tiny little V-tip. These are, very fine. I'll use them today as well. However, the FP0 is smaller than both of them. So it's a little bit of a redesign of the original P6 tool. However, it's a lot easier to use. It's much more maneuverable. You're really gonna notice a big difference when you're carving with this. So if you do like very fine lines, fine details, this will be it. So I'm gonna use all 3 of these. I'll do a little bit of carving on a cup here. I actually do have a jar lid for this I'll make later, but you can call it a cup for now. This is just a blue underglaze going over the top. I think it'll do a pretty good job of showing the fine lines, and so keep an eye on that. So just for start, I'm going to start with the FP1 just to kind of, you'll see how fine it is, and then when I come back with the 0, you'll see how crazy thin it can be. So let's see here. I think we're just gonna do some random leaves, maybe some fish, some random designs, just to try to see how fine we can get. And although these look thin, they're huge compared to the 0. So once we get a couple more in here. so that's the 0. And as we're getting smaller, we'll switch over to the 4. So this is a V-tip. It's similar to the FP1. Usually when I talk to people, you're either on FP1 team or FP4 team. It's kind of funny, people just like one or the other. I actually do like the 4 a lot. It seems a little bit finer. Get a few little kind of creases coming up the middle of these. And we'll do a couple of these. So what's important is this is what is it? It's kind of like a refrigerated chocolate temperature. So I like using that. You're not gonna get very deep, so I'm really just kind of taking that top layer off. A lot of, and the more careful you are, gentle, kind of feather it, you can still get a fine line with these. Okay, but then we'll switch over to the 0. And so the way this works is it's got that tiny little V-tip. So it's kind of like a classic, hook tip on there. This is the FP0. The other one was the FP4 and the FP1. Oh, you're coming to see us in the morning? All right, we'll see you. Okay, and the way this carves, so we add a little bit of an angle on here on the actual blade just because it carves a little bit better that way, but we'll just start by maybe following some of these lines. It is very thin. I'm just trying to be very careful. But you can tell already it's about half or even less than the width of the FP4. Or 4 and 2. Very, very, very similar. And the more you kind of practice with carving some of these, I've talked about this before, but I definitely study a lot with my pinky and ring finger, like just to kind of hold, because that way you can maneuver the tool. So there is, when you're working with something this small, there is a little bit of just practice. It helps to kind of see the best way to get some of these little details. Oh yeah, definitely. If you're gonna go buy it, check out the BOGO. Get something else. I know I should have a finger brush, but there's not one here. I'll go get one in a little bit. There's one. We have some in the demo. tools. We'll grab one. I know, this is a perfect spot for the finger brush. Oh man, thanks Jamie. All right, here's the finger brush. If you haven't seen it, we do include these in a lot of sets here and there. If you just started watching, this is the new Fine Point Zero. So it is the finest carving tool that we have made so far. So finger brush, there's a number of ways you can use it. When I'm doing something this small, sometimes I will actually try putting it on my thumb. And you'll see why in a second. So this way I can actually hold the piece, and then the way, at least I carve, usually my thumb is the closest, so I can just brush it away like that. Some people, you know, maybe your finger will be a little bit better, so give it a shot. So the FP1, if you're wondering about that, the FP1 is what I used first on a lot of this. This one is much smaller. It's about half or less than half the width of the FP1. Sharp curved line. So it's not going to be total freehand. You do have to turn the tool a little bit more as you're going, but that's kind of what I'm talking about when I'm, you know, using a couple fingers to stabilize. You sort of have to re-grip it a little bit, but you can get very fine lines. So as long as you turn the tool, it'll follow. And I'd say it's worth practicing and learning how to kind of do this, because, oh yeah, there's the finger brush. Because you are going to get a much finer line. So it's worth sort of practicing that new maneuverability. Brush that away. Trying to be up close in here. Oh, thumb's blind. All right, I'll try it. You know what? Let me try, just because of the camera angle in here. Let's try something else. Trying to be up close. Yeah, so if you're looking for more of a, talking about kind of the pencil line, it's not going to work quite like the Sgraffito tip, where it's total freehand, any direction. There is sort of a direction that you have to pull this. It has a blade, it's got to cut through. So in that case, I'd probably lean more towards the L1, where you do just have a very fine point. However, a lot of the time, you know, the L1 is going to be better on a bone dry. So this is all a little bit more leather hard. You actually have to carve, and so that's where this blade really works out well. The blade does not bend much. I mean, it's a very thin blade. I can bend it if I try, but when you're carving this delicate, you don't notice it at all, or it won't bend at all, and it's very strong in the direction that you carve. So just do some of that. We'll get down in here with for the bigger lines, it was the FP1 and the FP4. I catch on that one. So I do, the FP4 is, I think it's a little bit finer than the FP1, and it's maybe a little bit more maneuverable, so that one could be a good fit for you as well. Oh yeah, we do have the FP set 5, which is these three. So if you don't have them and you kind of want the combination of all these fine tools, you like doing fine stuff, that's a really good set. So we'll leave that one. Kind of, you know, shows how fine you can get. We'll keep going off to the side here. I'll do another little outline of something. Let's see. Just do some, let's see what this turns into. We have considered kind of a straight blade scalpel, so it's on our list. We have some ideas for it, but we gotta get through this year, and then we'll have a whole bunch of new stuff next year. So this one's the FP4. I do think it's pretty maneuverable, where if you need to go sideways, you can. But it will also, it just carves really well too, so. Yeah, I used to kind of hold it like a pencil, and that works, but you know, I've noticed just trying to be steady on a round object and kind of do, you know, weird things and carving, it just works a little bit better to sort of switch that up. And with a little bit of practice, it's not hard, but I do find that I have a little bit more control over sort of keeping some of those lines going the right way. So I'm not sure what this is. I'm just making a bunch of thin lines. I think it'll look interesting. So FP4 is good for outlining or kind of doing any of these main features. And then we'll come back with the FP0 and kind of fill in a bunch of little details. I just kind of like to get some sort of concept going. So we'll almost get us all the way around. Oh. Sorry, we got someone's phone going off in here. And we'll just connect everything with some other little shapes. So a lot of this I just like to do because then, you know, if you come back and clear out the background, you don't have big blank spots. It kind of just fills in and you get a bunch of neat. It looks nicer when you can clear out the background. Let's see. I'm looking at this question. Raise the border of your carving. I'm not sure I understand. When you make curved lines. Oh, are you talking about if it kind of lifts up the very edge? If I'm saying that right. Let's see. I don't have too many raised edges. So it could be, and I don't have, I'd be curious to, look at your piece, obviously, but I'd be curious if your clay is a little wet as you're making curved lines, then it's going to lift up. This is quite a bit drier, so it is carving, but it's not actually, there's no raised edges on any of these. So that could be something that, maybe try letting your piece dry out. I'm not sure what you work with or the exact dryness of your piece, but this is, it's not, the clay itself is not going to like move, or it's not malleable. So it sounds like you need to just let it sit a little bit, which is, it'll make a big difference. So that's why on, this kind of texture, I can carve it, you get a nice clean line, but it doesn't actually, you're not pushing anything. You're not getting a raised line. And so that's probably worth trying. So there's a couple, like right down in here, it's a little bit thicker on this edge. And so even that I can notice, it's not very noticeable, but even like a little bit wetter, you'll start to sink in a little bit more. So kind of pay attention to how much you're letting something sit and right about when you're gonna actually start carving. So we'll come back and fill some of this in. This needs some of these. All right, so now we'll switch back to the FP0, do all the fun detail stuff. I'll start here, and we'll finish up some of these little lines. So that tool, I was using the orange one, is the FP4. This is the FP0. Yeah, and I like working on this dryness because you still get like a shaving from carving. You still get like an actual little piece, but you don't, you can't accidentally mush something or go too deep. You definitely have a lot more control, at least with our tool. Like our tools have no problem cutting through that clay. You get a nice clean shaving, but you just have more control over kind of what the tool does and kind of how it goes. So line weight variation. So one tool that you could check out is the FP2. It's this one. I'll show you really quick. So if you want some line weight variation, the FP2 is great for that. It's a wider V-tip, so you can get really narrow, but then you add just a little bit more pressure and it'll widen. And you'll get kind of a heavier weight line. So the FP2, I really like for, doing all sorts of stuff. And then if you turn it on the side, you can kind of clear out a bigger space. So I'll try to use it a little bit later when I get to a spot. Yeah, and if you notice with this one, you're still getting you do have a tiny little carving shaving that comes out. This is FP0. And so that's what we really tried to focus on the design of this tool, is making sure you do get that shaving, because otherwise, it's just like any other tool where as you drag it through, it doesn't clear that material out. So you really want to be able to clear the material out of the way. Yeah, finger brush helps for this stuff. This is the finger brush. I just have it on my finger. I was kind of talking before. Sometimes I'll put it on my thumb. It depends how I hold it. Sometimes my thumb's right there. This time I can just carve a little bit, brush those little bits out of the way. And this is the finest brush. For anyone still watching, thanks for hanging out. Sorry this is going a little long, but we're getting a lot of good questions, so we'll keep going. For anyone that does little detail carving, you definitely know it just kind of just gotta sit here, and it just takes a little bit of time. But it's pretty satisfying to use this one. It just makes really tiny little lines. And then I'll come back with that FP2 later. We'll clear out some of these little zones that need it. Okay, we'll do a little bit over on here. And some of these. Sure, we can post it. We'll might be a couple weeks, but we'll get it fired and have some pictures. Yes, it's a blue underglaze. I use slip a lot of the time also, which you can do. I like slip a little bit more. I think sometimes I'll notice underglaze feels a little bit more like a outer shell that you kind of have to break through, and you might get some little crumbly bits. So I like slip just because it seems to stay a little bit more of like the clay consistency. But they both work. All right, we'll do a couple more little lines, and then I'm gonna have to wrap it up. But I'll finish this up offline, and we'll post some pictures later and try to get a finished piece pick in there. Here we go. All right, we got a couple people waiting to get back into our studio, so I'm gonna wrap that up. But the last thing I'll do is I just want to show that FP2 quick. You're asking about it. For varying line widths, it will work. So for something, I'll say like right here, you can get very thin, but then as you just push a little bit harder, you can vary that line width pretty easily. And so that's just because of the little bit wider V triangle shape. And then a lot of the time what I'll do is I do use, fix that up. I use the back side, or sorry, just the side of that triangle, and like this will get cleared out. So I'll use the side of the triangle and just kind of clear off one little spot here. So you can kind of go from getting into a narrow spot to a little bit wider. And come back and smooth that out. So that's, I use the FP2 a lot for that, where you're trying to just kind of get in here. And then we'll cut away a little bit more. Yeah, there you go. So use the side of the tool. We'll come clear this out. So for doing the clear out, I use FP2 and the FP7 quite a bit. They both work well, but sometimes where you do need to get into a little bit tighter zone, I'll use the FP2 because it has that point. But again, all these tools are just, they're great for these very specific uses. And then, yeah, if you run into a larger area, kind of no problem. Take that out. And so I'll end up coming back through and we'll get rid of the background, but if you need that V-tip, you still have it. just being very light with it. Again, you know, don't start too early. So like let your clay dry up a little bit, and then you're just shaving little bits at a time. So you'll notice it's a lot easier to work with. You get a much nicer result. So, all right, I gotta stop for now. I'll finish it up. We'll post a picture. Thanks for joining on this one. It's a fun one, and definitely go check out the FP0. And reminder, we have the BOGO going on right now. So go online, the code's holiday BOGO 24. We've posted it everywhere. It's all over the website. It's hard to miss, so check it out. And yeah, happy shopping, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next week.